There's a quiet assumption floating around that once a man reaches a certain age, he simply loses his edge. The world looks at a senior man living a simple, uncluttered life, driving a 10-year-old car, puttering in his garden, sitting peacefully on his porch, and they mistake his contentment for a lack of ambition. They whisper that maybe his best years are behind him. They assume that because he isn't chasing the next shiny object, he must be barely holding on. But today, I want to share a different perspective. What if that man isn't slowing down because he's tired, but because he has finally realized the race itself was an illusion? What if his simplicity isn't a sign of failure, but the ultimate trophy of victory? The question we're going to answer together today is this: why do the most financially secure senior men, the ones with nothing left to prove, wake up every morning and choose a life of quiet discipline over loud luxury? The answer, I believe, is hidden in the daily routines they've built over a lifetime. It's a rhythm of living that protects their peace and, ironically, protects their wealth, precisely because they've stopped trying to flaunt it. To understand the daily routine of a financially disciplined man, we have to look through the lens of Marcus Aurelius. He was the most powerful man in the world, an emperor of Rome, yet he wrote reminders to himself that would seem almost monastic by today's standards. He wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Now, read that again. This wasn't a poor man trying to comfort himself. This was a man who could have anything in the world he wanted. He understood the Stoic principle of the inner citadel. It's the idea that you carry your fortress of peace inside you, not outside in your bank account or your possessions. The senior man who has mastered his finances doesn't wake up and check his portfolio first thing. That's a habit born of anxiety, not discipline. Instead, his routine starts with fortifying the citadel. Before the sun rises, before the markets open, he sits in the quiet. He reads something that has lasted for centuries, not a news cycle that lasts 15 minutes. He pours a cup of black coffee and just sits with his thoughts. This is a radical act of defiance. The modern world, social media, 24-hour news, even well-meaning family members, is a storm of opinions. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher and statesman, warned us about this noise. He talked about how we waste our lives chasing things that don't matter. The senior man who lives simply has learned to protect his mornings. He knows that if his peace of mind is dependent on the stock market's morning numbers, he is not free. He is a slave to the ticker tape. His financial discipline isn't just about saving money, it's about saving his attention. He refuses to be a rich man with a bankrupt soul. As the morning progresses into the day, this discipline shows itself in the physical world. You see it in the house he lives in. Psychology has a term for why so many people relentlessly upgrade their lives the moment they get a raise. It's called hedonic adaptation. Simply put, we get used to pleasure very quickly. The new car smell fades. The bigger house just becomes the house you have to clean and heat. The financially disciplined senior man has waged war on hedonic adaptation, and he has won. He understood something decades ago that behavioral economists call the hedonic treadmill. He realized that if you tie your happiness to a bigger house, you will always need an even bigger house to feel the same fleeting joy. So, his routine often involves an act that confuses the outside world: intentional downsizing. You'll see him in the garage, sorting through tools he no longer needs. He's selling the boat that became a burden rather than a joy. He's moving from the 5-bedroom family home into a manageable, sunlit space. To the amateur, this looks like retreat. To the Stoic, this is an advancement. This is the loss aversion paradox. Human beings are psychologically wired to feel the pain of loss twice as powerfully as the pleasure of gain. We hold on to things: rusted tools, empty rooms, toxic relationships, expensive subscriptions, because we're terrified of losing them. But the wise senior man flips this script. He feels the gain of freedom twice as intensely as the loss of the object. He walks through a quiet, empty room in his downsized home, and he doesn't hear silence. He hears the absence of anxiety. He isn't afraid of losing money. He refuses to become controlled by it. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in the flow of real life. It's a Tuesday afternoon, and a man we'll call William is sitting at his modest kitchen table. William retired 10 years ago with a very comfortable nest egg, but if you saw him at the grocery store, you'd never know it. There's a knock at the door. It's a distant nephew, a good kid, but one who has bought into the world's definition of success. He's in a bind, an upside-down car loan, a need for a quick bailout. He asks William to co-sign. The room gets tense. The nephew talks about how he'll pay him back, how he just needs a little help to show the bank he's good for it. William listens. He doesn't lecture. He doesn't quote scripture or balance sheets. He just puts his hand on the young man's shoulder and says, softly, "I care about our relationship too much to let a bank come between us. I can't sign for you, but I can sit with you and help you figure out a plan to cut your spending." That, right there, is the peak of financial discipline. It's not a mathematical formula. It's emotional immunity. Stoicism teaches us the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, others are not. The nephew's debt is not William's to carry. The nephew's anger, also not William's to manage. William protects his peace before he protects his pride. He knows a quiet bank account is a fortress, but it must be guarded by the word no. This routine of saying no extends to his children and grandchildren. He doesn't measure his love by the size of the Christmas gift. He measures it by the time he spends teaching a grandchild how to plant a tree or how to read a balance sheet. He is deliberately practicing self-determination theory, the psychological need to feel competent and autonomous. He isn't giving his grandchildren an inheritance of cash that fosters entitlement. He's giving them an inheritance of wisdom that fosters competence. He is trading the temporary dopamine hit of a luxury purchase for the deep serotonin peace of a purposeful afternoon. Retirement is not the end of purpose for him. It is the reward for a life of discipline. As the evening draws in, the routine settles. Perhaps William walks through his neighborhood, watching the younger families with their new electric cars and their manicured high-maintenance lawns. He doesn't feel envy. He feels a quiet relief, blended with a mature gratitude. He has finally internalized the deepest truth about wealth. Real wealth begins where the need to impress ends. Getting older, in this light, is not about becoming weaker. It's a refining fire. It's the process of becoming what Marcus Aurelius urged us to be, the rock that the waves crash against, but do not move. The financially disciplined senior man has become difficult to manipulate, not because he is stubborn, but because his desires have been simplified. He is comfortable with enough. His daily routine isn't a grind, it's a sanctuary. The greatest return on investment you can ever achieve is a peaceful life. It's a mind that doesn't flinch at market corrections. It's a heart that doesn't envy the neighbor. It's a soul that knows its legacy isn't logged in a bank statement, but etched in the character of the people he loves. True wealth, at the end of our journey, is measured by three things: the peace of mind you've protected, the wisdom you've given away, and the grace with which you accept the final season of life. Money is just the tool. Freedom was always the goal. I've shared these reflections on William's life, but I'd very much like to hear from you. There is a deep wisdom in the men who watch this channel, wisdom earned over decades, not days. If you feel comfortable, leave a comment below and tell us, what is the one financial habit you've embraced that has brought you the most peace? Or maybe, share with us what true wealth means to you today, at this stage of your life. If this conversation felt like time well spent, please like this video. And if you know another senior man, a friend, a brother, a neighbor, who values wisdom over status, share this with him. This isn't about building an audience. It's about building a community of men who support each other in the quiet, dignified work of living well. Subscribe to Senior Stoic Wealth, and I'll meet you right back here for our next conversation. Seek wisdom, protect your peace, leave a legacy.